Hello, Charlie TCG here, and welcome to my top 5 rogue archetypes for the Paldea and Evolved format. We're only a couple of days away from one of the biggest and most exciting sets we've seen in absolutely years. And what exactly are some of the rogues of archetypes which potentially could be saving you money and could go toe-to-toe on these big archetypes like Lugia and Gardevoir? So I'm here to break down to you the top 5 of rogue archetypes which could do really well in the new sort of format. So my number 5 pick is in fact Zoro Box. Although it might not perform too well in the city leagues over in Japan, the Phantom Transformation ability is super strong to turn to any stage 1 Pokemon Zoroark may like if it's in your discard pile. And there's a new really cool energy which absolutely buffs Zoroark. And that is in fact Reversal Energy, the ability to have that attached to any of your evolved Pokemon which don't have a rule box, and if you're behind in prizes, to be 3 of any coloured energy if possible is super strong. It opens up to likes that really have like Gardevoir as options to attack, or potentially other ones like Titan and Electrify as really good attacking options in the format. So when I've sort of listed here, this is kind of what I've been working with, performed pretty well over in some of the top 8 sort of places here. We can see here there are quite a few of the new sort of archetypes there. So Titan is really strong by doing 80 damage plus additional 120 more if there's a special energy attached to it. So Reversal Energy attached to Titan is really good to do both big one-hit KO damage capability, and Electrify being able to flood the your opponent's board state with lots of damage with its Reversal Energy attached to it is really strong. This also opens the light with Mightyena can also have a better option against the likes of Gardevoir EX. Having that amazing Wild Tackle, yes, gets that big one-hit KO on Mew VMAX, but with Reversal Energy attachment, and if you're behind in prizes, you can get that big turn, potentially a couple turns in, big one-hit KO on Gardevoir. The rest of it is very simple from what you've seen in the rest of the Zoroark sort of option. Having the curly line is an absolute no-brainer, getting or discarding any of your evolved Pokemon out there so you can reuse them with Zoroark as well, and having that Gardevoir as well at the top thing is good to have that other attacking option near the late game, as well as that Shiner card to get more extra draw sort of cards. The rest of it is very sort of simple. Flapple is really good to deal loads of damage to Pokemon which have lots of abilities around there. Raichu is really good against the likes of Palkia, as we've seen an increase of that, and obviously Lugia V-Star. Kleavor is really good against the likes of the Arceus builds and Miraidon, what's going on with that, and obviously Slowbro is your late game sort of finisher. The rest of it, they do have a couple of the new sort of cards around there. Iona and Super Rod really help this deck sort of work by constantly cycling in your Zoroark, which really what this deck has kind of been missing. And Azor Town is really good to constantly get out those Zoroarks and Rocks very much in the early sort of game. Currently, Azura is really good to guarantee to get any of your evolved Pokemon out there, and you can get that easy discard through Curlier. I think this is definitely an archetype which could shine out as a really good sort of tech box of option. Although it hasn't performed as well over in the big sort of tournaments in Japan, that's not need to say that it won't perform well in our sort of format here, and Zoroark has always had some good success over for us. My number 4 pick is in fact Arceus Wolves, and it's done pretty well overall. The likes we've seen obviously at EUIC with Alolan Vulpix winning the huge tournament by Alex Szymanski. But having the likes of Flying Pikachu and Alolan Vulpix and even like Tapu Koko are really good options to have that amazing sort of draw capability and stopping the opponent through whether it be paralyzation, not being able to attack if they're a basic Pokemon or have an ability on, is really good. And obviously Arceus V-Star is an amazing Starburst capability. This is definitely, if you're worried about likes of Giratina or can't really afford that sort of likes, this is a really good route to round to have like these really good sort of walling options. And having here, you can see the rough sort of list here, plays quite a few of the new sort of cards here. A high count of Iona is really good because you want to be disruptive as possible. You don't want the opponent to break the lock in a way. You want Alolan Vulpix and Flying Pikachu, if you have them set up, to stay out in play and not kind of like break that sort of lock here. And Spiritomb is really good to stop any Pokemon, basic V Pokemon with abilities, kind of slowing down Mew VMAX if they're potentially playing the regular version of Mew. Trying to slow them down a little bit is really strong. And Squawk ability is really good with the show off ability where if it's the first turn of the game and this Pokemon is on your bench, you may discard your hand and draw into your F6. The only downside to it, you can only play one of these abilities per game, but it's really good and it can only be used on the first turn. The rest of it is very much like the Arceus sort of lock we've used to seeing. Lost City, Path to the Peak, high counts of boss and destructive cards like Judge and Iona, and even an Avery as well to really help kind of be as destructive as possible. I really like the sort of version of Arceus with the wall likes of Vulpix and Flying Pikachu. We've seen Flying Pikachu even creep its way into the likes of Arceus Giratina, even as well with Alolan Vulpix as well. Definitely something which you want to try and pick up. It's a really good sort of under-the-radar pick. Having good matchups against the likes of Gardevoir as well as Lost Box and Lugia is nothing to be kind of shabbed about, and I think it's a really good position to potentially do well in those cups around there and even have a deep run in those big tournaments like NAIC and potentially Worlds. Now, my number 3 pick is actually Regis. And yes, I know I'd covered it before. I think it's actually in an okay place overall in the meta. It hasn't performed okay in the city leagues, but people over, especially in America, love Regis. It dominated loads of in the early sort of format, at start of this sort of format, as well as also the capability to do big sort of damage out there. Gigaton Break and Ancient Wisdom is absolutely amazing. If your whole bench is full of your Regis, getting 3 energies from a discard pile is super strong. Now, I know we did say goodbye to Aurora Energy and all those special energies, but as we can see here, we get Luminous Energy, which is really, really powerful in the style of deck. Constantly be able to be any of the Pokemon out there, any energy you would like, as long as there's no other special energy attached to it. It's really, really strong to this sort of format. And you can see here, a lot of it is very simple from this I shared case a couple of weeks ago. High counts of the Regidrago, because if you played the other one, or quote unquote the bad Drago, you can deal a load of damage, and with Defiant Band attached to it, if you're behind in prices, you can do massive 270 damage, which is very nice to have it, and you can finish off that Pokemon with Regilucky Terra Spark later on in the game. The rest of it is very sort of simple here, and Super Rod really does make Reggie work as quick as possible, with potentially Azor Town as well, constantly be able to reuse any of your Regis that did get discarded, and I really like that option for the deck. Energies you do not play as many as you want to have, purely on the basis that you are going to play a high count of Pokemon and more items sort of searching out there, as you don't want to rely too much on energies, as you're playing a lot more basic energies compared to the big sort of special energies which we're so used to in the past sort of format. I think it's in an okay sort of place right now, purely on the basis of how much Americans loved Regis during its prime sort of time. I could see Regis kind of have a little bit of a comeback, be a bit of an under-the-radar sort of pick, especially purely on the basis of how strong it can do, and have very relevant weakness, hitting for weakness, with the likes of having fighting as well as lightning types, and also Steel, purely on the basis that Xianpao, Arceus, as well as the likes of Palkia are kind of really dominating the format as of right now here in Japan. So we're in a really good situation, and Regis can still get that big one-hit kill on the VMAX, which is exactly what you want to have. Yeah, yes, you can lose a lot more to the likes of the Lost Box, as well as the likes of Radiant, Greninja, but that's why you have Pink Link Bar to get that extra heal on there, and do not play that against Gardevoirs, because potentially they could get extra heal and attach more energies. Now, my number 2 pick is in fact Meowscarada EX. I love this card here. When I first saw it, I immediately went, this is an amazing sort of card. The Magic Bonnet sort of ability where you could discard a grass energy from your hand and put 3 damage counters on one of your opponent's bench Pokemon, and Nail Strike for a double colorless, 100 plus 120 more if the active Pokemon does in fact have a damage counter on that. It has done okay in City Leagues, getting a couple wins, couple top 8s, and a few second places, but it hasn't got the big sort of performance out there, as it's definitely more of an under-the-radar sort of pick. Really dominating more on the gym challenge sort of things that they're kind of similar to our league challenges for us. And I really like where Meowscarada is in the sort of format. If we look here at a list, which in fact did pretty well at a gym challenge a couple days ago, we can see here we're focusing more on having Arceus V-Star, as Arceus V-Star is really, really powerful with the Star Birth star power, getting any of the Pokemon you might want to have, kind of getting that Rare Candy Masquerada, which is what Irida gets a Excalibur plus Rare Candy in there. I really like this sort of option in there, and having multiple more sort of switching outs as well with Escape Rope, it's really good to constantly be reusing your Masquerada to get the extra sort of damage out for attacks. Radiant Alakazam and Medicham are a combo which we've seen the likes of in the Rapid Strike sort of option in the deck, constantly by doing lots of damage on there. The Medicham and Radiant Alakazam could potentially go to 1 to 2 prizes you could get, getting some confis, getting rid of them on the bench, and getting those big potentially that extra turn and that big damage which Nail Scratch can do later on in the game. Rest of it, we do play some of the new sort of cards out there. Superior Energy Retrieval is really good. Saying goodbye to regular Energy Retrieval is kind of alright for this sort of deck, as Superior Energy Retrieval is amazing late sort of game, discarding any of the useless cards you may want to have, and guaranteeing game 4 the basic grass energies is really powerful, because that could potentially, you could use 1 to maybe even 3 magic bouquets if you've got them set up on the board state, and Arceus is really good to kind of set up, do some damage early on. Rest of it, very some couple of the new sort of cards out there. Azor Town to guarantee to get your Sprigatito, your Bidoof, and your Manaphy's out on play is really, really strong. And Iona as well to be a bit of disruptive later on. Our main draw option in this deck is Professor Research and Chorus Experiment, kind of a lot more the aggressive sort of digging sort of a deck. You want to get that set up for Masquerada as quickly as turn 2, applying that pressure by potentially doing 120 damage plus extra more through that Magic Bouquet is always really, really powerful. Now, could this deck potentially be better than the Rapid Strike box? It could, But with Rapid Strike Box, you have two different attackers, which can hit for two very relevant weaknesses. Whereas Meowscarada, nothing is really weak to grass as of right now, but it has a really good weakness being fire, as that is not popular as of right now. But does have Arceus V-Star, which can be very detrimental to the likes of Reggie Rock, Ting-Lu, as well as other sort of Galets, which have been around in these Gardevoir counter sort of boxes here. But I really like this sort of deck. I can't wait to test this, kind of go to a few League Cups and challenges to try it out. And I love where Meowscarada can kind of fit itself in by having an okay matchup against the likes of Gardevoir and Lost Box, purely on the basis of doing multiple damage to the bench Pokemon. So what exactly is my number one rogue pick? It's in fact Ting-Lu. Kind of doing all right in the city leagues, but the Earthen Curse is amazing. The capability where as long as it's in the active spot, your opponent's Pokemon have any damage counters on it, have no abilities except for EX Pokemon. And Land Scoop doing 150 damage and then placing 2 damage counters on one of your opponent's bench Pokemon. Yes, a very steep cost, but having ability lock in the format with having a huge amount of HP, with having not really a relevant weakness, which is really, really powerful, it's super, super powerful. The capability, we've seen a lot of it with the likes of Hawlucha and also Radiant Alakazam as well in this, doing lots of damage counters around the board. You can really stop the likes of Lugia getting those big attacking damage out there, which I really like there to really stop that Archeops sort of play. And the list is very similar to one I just shared, Case, about a month or so ago on the channel, kind of focusing more on you have to have Koraidon, you have to use Koraidon's Dino Cry to get this deck set up at least turn 1 or turn 2, because otherwise you have the likes of Gutsy Pickaxe and kind of hoping you get to attach some energies out there. That's why we play a high count of Fighting Energy and a high count of Trekking Shoots, Ultra Ball, and Professor's Research, because you want to constantly try and get out the big turn 1 attack with Ting-Lu to really affect that lock going on play. Then help with that is also Squawk Ability EX to do that big draw capability, which we've seen quite a lot of these in these sort of rogue archetypes. As it is one of these sort of decks, we want to play as much Disruption as possible. Judge as well as Iona are really, really good partners to go with it. And Temple of Sinnoh as well, trying to slow down the likes of Gardevoir and also the likes of Lugia is really, really strong. Even kind of helping them stop Lost Zone as much as possible by neglecting them likes of using Jetta Energy is really, really good because you can potentially trap some in the active spot and do those big sort of spread damage out there with Hawlucha, Radiant Alakazam, and get those big one-hit KOs, potentially those 2 or 3 prize turns. Penny is really good because you can utilize the likes of Hawlucha or heal that big Ting-Lu sort of damage, and the Charm of Courage, if we attach to a Ting-Lu, has 290 HP. That is a lot of HP for a basic EX Pokemon. I really like this sort of deck. I think it has a pretty good Gardevoir sort of matchup, kind of slowing down the baby Gardevoirs as well as the likes of Curlier. It's really good, detrimental to kind of that Gardevoir setup, but it doesn't shut off Gardevoir EX's ability, but it does shut off Zacian as of right now. I think it's really good. I don't think you should play Path to Peak because you have so many Pokemon out here, basic Pokemon EX, which do have a rule box, which do have abilities, so you don't want to utilize that. And you do kind of struggle sometimes with the likes of Lugia as you are doing 30 less damage. But if you can try and stop their Archeops and stop their Lugia's ever getting over those bigger damages out, you can be in a really good spot in the game. Yes, you are doing a lot of damage to the bench, so you have to utilize the stuff of Radiant Alakazam if you need to kind of put any damage counters on the active Pokemon. I think it's a really sort of good deck here. Potentially could do really well. Definitely, I think, could be something to watch out for if you are going to NAIC. This is definitely something to kind of keep an eye out for, or if you go to a cup. With Ting-Lu, it's getting a lot of hype right now. May not perform too well, but it definitely is got a lot of writing to it and potentially could do incredibly well in the format. So that is in fact my video as of right now, and I hope you have enjoyed my looking at the rogues or picks in the Paldea Evolved format. If you have, please make sure to like and subscribe down below. I'll be back in a couple of days' time when Paldea Evolved is finally released. I'm going to discuss with you exactly what my top 5 competitive decks are, what ones which will see a lot of play, and potentially ones you should look out for if you are going to NAIC or other Silver League Cups when this format is legal. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this video. Please make sure to like and subscribe. My name is TCG, and I will see you guys in a couple of days' time. Bye for now.